Hi, my name is Michael Starkey, International Campaigns Coordinator for Save the Frogs. Today we're going to learn about how to create, organize, and implement a successful Save the Frogs Day event. Save the Frogs Day is going to be held on April 29th, 2017. Now, this is your event will hopefully be one of many around the world. It's part of a global event to celebrate amphibians and raise awareness for their conservation. So the more people that hold events, the more successful we will be to spread the word that amphibians are in a lot of trouble and need our support. Now, so during this video, we're going to learn all about holding an event, the basics of it. And so, yeah, the best part about holding a Save the Frogs Day event is that it really can be anything. So that means it can be a bake sale to fundraise for conservation efforts for amphibians, or it could be a frog walk, like to go see amphibians out in the wild, or it could even be something larger. You could organize a 5K race, an environmental protest to raise awareness about the decline of amphibians, or maybe a frog harming pesticide. There are many things that people can do to organize a Save the Frogs Day event. So it's up to you what you decide to do. And so during this video, we're going to learn about some of the do's and don'ts about what makes a successful event. So let's get started here. So one, you have to think about a timeline of an event. And there really are 4 parts. And now the first thing you have to do is create it. And so that's pretty simple. Just basically start to brainstorm, think about what you're going to do, and then that'll help you plan the entire process. And so you can find many tips on certain different types of events if you go to savethefrogs.com/day, and you'll learn about what different events will be suitable for your, conservation needs. Now, what are you trying to achieve on your day, though? This is important to ask this question because there are so many different, outcomes of what your event can do. Are you looking to raise awareness, gather funds, or maybe just, have an event to celebrate frogs? And so if you think about what's kind of the ultimate goal, awareness, we believe, should be the number one way to spread the awareness about amphibians in your community, that they're in trouble and that they need help. And so to maximize the amount of ways you can do that is pretty important. But you could also have a fundraising event, and you can donate to Save the Frogs for a particular amphibian conservation program that you care about, or even so for some local environmental conservation issues in your area. So really, it's up to you about what you want to do. Now, you can have a presentation pretty much anywhere, or you can hold a table anywhere. And so we commonly have biologists and scientists, or even educators like teachers and PhD students, going out into their community and giving presentations about frogs, amphibian ecology, conservation, and things like that. So you can, again, hold them at libraries, at farmers markets, at herpetology clubs or universities. There are many avenues of where you can give a presentation. Now, you can also go and have out into nature and go find amphibians. So many scientists and just herpers in general love to take their community members out to go find frogs on Save the Frogs Day. And what better way to connect with amphibians to actually go see them in their native habitat. Also, you can have a parade or a protest. Like I mentioned earlier, there's many causes that can be celebrated for amphibians, or causes, and also campaigns that you could actually coordinate on Save the Frogs Day. So we've had many different groups around the world actually take a particular campaign and bring it to light, whether like it was protesting atrazine in front of the White House in the federal EPA building, or protesting frog legs, or just general parades in your community. So going around with a banner with some signs and raising awareness about what's happening in amphibians in your community. Also, another great and easy way to hold an event is just to have a simple bake sale. And so we have quite a few individuals that's their way to contribute to frog conservation, is by raising some funds and having a bake sale for amphibians. So, and then it's important to think about the logistics of the actual event. So when are you going to hold it? Where are you going to hold it? And so if you think about these beforehand, obviously, you'll be able to, plan your event a little bit better. And so ask all these questions in the creation period of, planning your event. Now, step two is organization. So you know where your event's going to take place, you know what time it's going to take place, and you know who's going to hopefully be helping you out and what your goals are as well. So if you're fundraising, creating awareness, or both. And now it's time to get into the organizational part. So the actual, the nitty gritty details. Now, that's a tongue twister, frog in my throat right there. Solicitation and advertising are very important because when you have your event, you don't really want just a few people there. You want as many people as possible. So you can advertise in the local paper, online, obviously through social media, but getting the word out as much as possible will help you to have a better event. Now, it's really important to think about if you're going to have a public event, you might need to get permits, or there might be certain rules and regulations you need to follow. So whatever your event is, just remember to follow the guidelines and don't break any laws with your Save the Frogs Day event. Not that we hope, or not that we think you will. But it's really important that Save the Frogs Day doesn't actually have to cost a lot of funds. So Save the Frogs Day is meant to just be a local community event. And that can be, again, as simple as holding a bake sale, or even just going on a walk to see amphibians with your friends. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Many times we actually receive a lot of concerns that people are worried they can't have an event because of funds. And really, it's more about being in your community and raising awareness. And you can do that for free. And so there's many tips on our website, savethefrogs.com/day, where you can learn about some cost-saving tips for your event that you plan to have. Now, find volunteers. And now your volunteers don't have to be, people you don't know. They can be your friends. So there are many times that I've organized Save the Frogs Day events, and I've had my friends come out, and we have a good time, learn about frogs, and spread awareness in our community. So we have a good time helping the frogs out. And so find volunteers to help you. Not only will it kind of make your event look a little bit more organized, and you'll have more people behind the table or whatever helping you, but you'll have a good time with people that care about similar interests. So it's good to have volunteers come out. Now it's actually the day of the event. So Save the Frogs Day is April 29th, 2017. And what better way is to be, hopefully you've created a nice event, it's well organized, and so the big day's here, time to implement it. So here's a few tips about the actual day. One, you should really watch the Tabling and Effective Advocacy video on our YouTube page. So if you go to youtube.com/savethefrogs, you'll find that video in there. There's also a great deal of information about Save the Frogs Day on our YouTube site, and you can learn all about Save the Frogs Day and about tabling. So tabling is actually, if you're new to it, it can be an interesting process. But this video will help you be prepared. And I'll give you a few more tips too to help you with your table. So appearance. So when you're having a Save the Frogs Day event, to an extent, you're actually, you're out in the public's eye. And so when you're standing behind the table, there are certain perceptions that the general public will think about you. And so it's important to look good. You're representing frog and frogs conservation. So it's important to look good, always smile, and to just remember that appearance is a little important. So, and you want to be aware of your surroundings as well, too. Because one thing is, like, when, for example, many Save the Frogs events, day events, and other events, we can have a lot of people that join us for these particular events. And, well, sometimes we want to make sure all their questions are being answered, that if they want to purchase or donate, that those needs are being addressed too. So again, good to have events, but just be aware of your surroundings. So make sure everyone's questions are being answered and that it's a fun event for everybody. What's really important, though, is that you come a little prepared. So Save the Frogs Day and any Save the Frogs event, we get asked lots of questions about frogs. And so it's good to know the basics. So like I said, on our website, there's so much information about amphibians, about Save the Frogs Day, that you should, if you're holding an event, know a little bit about the basics. But some very common questions to ask yourself, and so you can be prepared for on Save the Frogs Day. There's what's happening to the frogs? Why should we save the frogs? Why not help people? So that's a really important one, because we know what's happening to the frogs. If you're holding a Save the Frogs Day event, you know that amphibians are some of the most endangered group of animals on the planet. They need our help. Why should we save the frogs? They're bioindicators. They are a natural form of pest control. And frogs are really cool animals that deserve to exist. And so we don't want to lose them. So I asked this question, why not people? Is because if people are not, some people that come up to our tables are not so familiar with, say, the frogs or, amphibian conservation in general, they sometimes get a little upset that there are causes that are not human related, because everyone has their own opinions about the way the world is and just kind of what's more important. And so while there are some people that might disregard your efforts, and so that's why I say, why not help people? And we typically say to that, well, it's like, well, there are many humanitarian organizations focusing on the needs of people around the globe. There are very few people out there speaking up for the needs of frogs. And right now, frogs are in critical and danger of going extinct. So we need to help them. Okay, then you need to know the basics about what's an amphibian, what's a frog, what's a toad. So knowing those, is it a frog or a toad? It's one of the most common questions I receive at tables. So just remember to have that information ready. Also, locally, you might get this question, what's this thing, or what's this blank in my backyard? So many times whether I'm in California, Florida, or even when I lived in Central America, I'd have people asking me, there is this thing in my backyard. So basically you become the perceived expert about what, animals are living in their backyard, because people, they know that, or think that what's kind of living back there. So just prepare to know a little bit about the general reptiles and amphibian species of your area. Lastly, how can I save the frogs? Now, that's a really important one, and we tell people to go to our website to learn as much as they can as possible, but there's a few simple things that people can do. They can reduce their carbon footprint, their ecological footprint, so be frog friendlier by not eating frogs, not taking frogs out of the wild. Don't use pollute, or don't, obviously pollute or use pesticides, go organic, and simple things like that. And just become aware and tell their friends and family what's happening to frogs. So if you be prepared with some of these commonly asked questions, you should kind of be okay at your tabling event. Now, back to you're the perceived expert. So whenever you're giving the presentation, or if you're behind a table, the general public is going to think that you are the expert. So it's really important that you actually know what you're talking about. So it's very important, and that way we can all spread awareness about what's happening in amphibians. But just know that people are going to be looking to you for guidance and about what to do to save the frogs. And if you don't know all the questions, that's completely fine. You're not necessarily the expert, So, but tell everyone to go to savethefrogs.com to learn more about what they can do. And if you don't know, say, that's a good question, I'll get back to you. Jot down their email and reply to them later. So also, when you receive a donation, it's really important to understand that that's faith. That's someone is really actually supporting your efforts, and they believe about what you're doing. And so whether you're, holding an event to raise awareness, or you're receiving donations for Save the Frogs, it really is faith in the efforts of the organization. And so we are greatly appreciative of donations at any level. And just know that whenever you receive a donation, you should feel the same way too, because it really is having someone just sending a lot of support and faith. And also those donations, we can't run without them. And so we value those, that monetary support so much. And so be very appreciative and gracious to them for providing that support. So, and sometimes when you're behind the table or you're giving a talk on Save the Frogs Day, you kind of get into some depressing subjects, or maybe even some confrontations. I talked a little bit about how on Save the Frogs, a common question is, why not help people? And so that happens. And sometimes you just have to address it. If you feel that someone's being a little too negative to you, just call them out and say, hey, I don't think this is a good time to have this conversation. Maybe take a walk, and then we can talk about it a little further. It's kind of hard that people are going to get too upset about, Save the Frogs Day, but sometimes it happens. I've had quite a few confrontations at tables where someone just didn't agree with something, and we had to talk it out. But depressing subjects, that comes up very often, because most people do not know what's happening to frogs. And so when they first learn about it, it can be quite alarming and a little upsetting. And so and sometimes it's important to, while acknowledge that amphibians are greatly threatened, give them hope and always steer the conversation back in a positive way. So, because together we can save the frogs. And there's been so many monumental conservation efforts happening around the world that it's going to get better. It has to. Otherwise, we're going to lose so much. And so having that hope is really great for kind of conquering those tough conversations. Now, also take photos of yourself. Always have photos. And this is another reason it's good to have volunteers, because we really want to document what happens on Save the Frogs Day. Now, take photos of anything. So of yourself, the volunteers, kind of a group shot. And then that way we can further, spread the word about your efforts to the greater community, because what you do on Save the Frogs Day is going to inspire others to hold events. So document it as much as possible. And then, yeah, have fun. So relax, smile. Save the Frogs Day is a celebration. It truly is. While we want to raise as much awareness as possible, we want to have a good time doing it. So to make sure to hold your Save the Frogs Day event, have a good time doing it. Save the Frogs Day is an excellent way to have fun and kind of party for the planet. So go out there and enjoy your day. Now, lastly, follow up. And this is one of the most important steps, because we cannot know what you did on Save the Frogs Day unless you tell us. And so when you organize your Save the Frogs Day event, you should have a plan to tell us about it later. So, yeah. So always make sure to, one, register your event at savethefrogs.com/register, and also to just send me an email, and I'll provide you with that email in a second. But yeah, always tell us. And remember, the people that you meet on Save the Frogs Day, they're allies to the amphibians, right? So, because they are helping you. So you are part of a global movement to protect amphibians, and organizing a Save the Frogs Day is one of the best ways to spread awareness. And so reach out to those people that you meet, keep in touch with them, get emails, and organize future events in your community. So yeah, and that kind of just goes on, just follow up with people as much as possible, collect those emails again, and as much as possible, rally those people that want to help your efforts to save the frogs. All right, and then it comes down to planning that next event. So you've created the event, you've thought about where and when it's going to take place, you've organized it, you've found volunteers. Hopefully you had a wonderful Save the Frogs Day event. You followed up with us so we know what you did, and we can relay that information back to our worldwide supporters, but also plan that next event. And you don't have to go through the entire all steps to do it, but just think about what you want to do event, hold the same event, and think about what you can do to make it better. And network, because all these events that happen, they can easily be repeated. And those people that came out to your event, they might want to help you organize an event or hold their own. So network with those people as much as possible, so that way your efforts can be repeated. Now, Save the Frogs Day is always the last Saturday of April, and this coming Save the Frogs Day is April 29th, 2017. So we hope that you will organize and hold a wonderful event, and we greatly appreciate your support in Save the Frogs. So thank you for holding the event, and I look forward to spreading the word about your fantastic efforts to help amphibians around the globe.